Today is July 29th, and this is Jury Duty, a Big Brother podcast. My name is Kyle Petty, and I'm joined by Gina Morgino and John Dunphy. And we're going to recap the events of this entire week, starting with Christian winning the veto, not using it, leaving Brett and Brittany as the final nominees for eviction. Then tonight, we saw Brent evicted 11-0, making that the first unanimous eviction of the season. And then we saw Christian win HOH. So I want to just start way at the beginning. Christian winning veto. Didn't use it. What do we think about that? Was that the right decision? Yay, nay.
I absolutely think it was the right decision. I think the person everybody wanted out was on the block, and that person literally said, "Don't use it." So Christian, I feel like he did the right thing. That's my opinion. It's been what a great few days for Christian though. Here, he's been having a great last week or so.
It's been a fantastic week for Christian, and no, we're definitely going to get into all of that. But obviously, so now not using that, left Brent and Brittany still on the block. So obviously, we saw Brent evicted 11-0. The entire house voted him out. Predictable, yes. But still super fun. Although I still could have said, I could have seen Brittany go home. And I definitely would like to have a conversation around that, because I'm starting to wonder if it's really the right decision to be leaving Brittany in the house at this point. And I'm saying that I really think that Brittany would be better off going out pre-jury, because everything that we've seen from her leads me to believe that she's going to be a bitter Betty in the jury house. And I think that whoever gets her out is going to be a problem. No, so go ahead. What do you have to say?
Well, I've been meaning to bring that up because I have seen nobody in the house so far talk about jury management, which is crazy to me when there's so many super fans in there right now.
Yes.
And at this point, only 2 people are getting evicted pre-jury at this point. We've already seen 3 people go. There's only 2 left. And when we've had conversations about seeing how emotional Brittany has been in the house and how emotional Azah has been in the house, those are 2 people that are on a fast track to being a bitter juror. And all you really need is one to poison the jury and lose you the game. We've seen it happen so many seasons in the past that all you need is one. So they have to start being really careful if they're letting them get to jury about how they're getting evicted and who is evicting them, because this can cost somebody the game very easily.
Right. No, and nobody's talking about these things. And I'm I'm very concerned. And I'm glad that you brought up Azah, because especially if we're only going to be losing 2 more people now, before we start going to jury. Somebody actually posed a question to us about the relationship between Azah and Brittany. Because obviously we've seen Azah have a very emotional reaction to the treatment of Brittany, which is been very interesting. But so somebody asked us, do you think that autism is playing a role in Azah's defense of Brittany? I personally think that possibly, but I kind of feel like it shouldn't, and I feel bad for saying that. But if you're just gonna kind of lay down on the sword and die for somebody, then what was the point of playing the game in the first place?
I suppose it could be playing a role. But I guess it's hard to say, because there's so much in the house that we don't see. But I could see it playing a role. But I also do kind of feel like in a lot of what I've seen Azah saying about it, it seems like Brittany's just somebody that she really, really trusts and knows that will have her back no matter what. And Azah's gone to bats for her so much now that I don't think Brittany ever would do anything to go against Azah. But I could see that playing a bit of a role in it.
I want to say, so you think it's more gameplay based than emotions?
I think it could be gameplay that's being clouded by emotion. You know what I mean? It's really hard to say exactly, but
No, that's fair.
I mean, from what I've seen, and it's possible that I missed it, the only time that I've ever seen it get brought up was in Brittany's, what's it called? Intro package.
Opening. Yeah.
Yeah. So
for preseason, hello.
I don't know if the people in the house are aware of it. So I don't know if it would, like I haven't seen any conversations that Brittany's having with anybody in regards to it. It may be that I'm just missing it, but I've only really seen it referenced in her intro package.
All right. Okay. So that brings us into Christian winning HOH. Obviously, nobody wanted somebody from the Kings to win, and somebody did. So now what? What do we think Christian's play is?
I think what we love about Big Brother is when things are interesting, right? And I think this is so interesting because everybody knows. Yeah, right? I mean, so we had, Travis go home, Frenchie go home, and now Brent. So 3 of the 4 teams have lost somebody, except for the Kings. And tonight we see just the line of succession continue. Another King takes the throne.
I love it.
And gets HOH. And I'm just so curious to see what we were, what we're going to get here. It's tough because there's so much to go over. I feel like so much is happening in every episode of this season. So, but I find it so interesting because this kind of ties into something that we were talking about before we recorded with some of these house guests really struggling with, what do I do? Do I stay loyal to my team? Do I stay loyal with this alliance? Right. And this big alliance that we saw, the Royal Flush, I feel like you almost are starting to see little cracks in it,
already.
Right? You see the Queens. You see the Queens and Derek X sort of discussing, well, what do we do here? Like, I don't want to be on a team that has only 2 players and have somebody go out. So how do we get somebody from the Kings out? And you hear them talking about, maybe throwing it to Whitney, this and that. And I just think it's so interesting now. But now the Kings are in power again. So what do you do? It's very interesting. Right.
I feel like Gina has a lot to add.
Yeah.
To a lot of these things.
I don't even know where to begin. So it is interesting because in tonight's edit, we started to see a little bit of talk of who the next target would be, but they didn't necessarily give a very accurate representation of how that conversation went down.
Okay.
We saw a clip of Christian throwing Hannah's name out there, and now all of a sudden Hannah's a talking point. But what ended up happening was Christian was thinking, everybody's pretty much talking about wanting to target Whitney next. That's kind of been the main plan for most of this week, is that Whitney is the next target. And they were toying around ideas of people to put up as a potential pawn to make sure that Whitney goes home. And Christian was referencing DF pretty often, is like, I think this is like the best case scenario, which
yes, please.
Trust me, we're going to get to that. I have so much to say about DF, but we saw a little bit of nerves from Xavier because he's most loyal to the cookout above all else. So what he doesn't want to see is somebody from the cookout on the block and in danger of going home. So to him, he kind of countered that by saying, oh, I don't know, maybe Hannah might be a safer option because she hasn't really, made anybody upset. Hannah is, an unofficial member of the cookout.
Except, is she still? Because I feel like now she was being included in some of the conversations that we saw tonight. Yeah. So I'm starting to feel like maybe she has kind of risen from the trenches here.
To my understanding, and I'm not sure why, the only reason that Hannah is considered unofficial is because Azah doesn't want her to be a part of it. But I'm not sure why that is. She's really the only one, because there was even a point where Azah accidentally said the name cookout in front of her, and she was like, oh, cute, that's what we call this? And she was like, no, that's what I call it in my head. I don't know. It's so weird.
Oh, then, I have read about that on Twitter.
Yeah, and she was freaking out. Like, guys, I'm so sorry. I outed the cookout, and everyone was like, oh, so you told Hannah about the alliance that Hannah's in? Wow. But, she was the only one who really cared about it because for whatever reason, she doesn't want her to be a part of it.
That's very strange. It's so funny. I happened to tune into the feeds last night briefly, and I missed when Azah, I guess, spilled the name to Hannah, who I guess kind of already knows, right? I mean, but I missed that part And I just happened to see Azza like running around the house, like, I'm so sorry, I said the name, and I almost texted you, Gina, to be like, what happened? What did I miss? And then I like after watching a few more minutes, after watching a few more minutes, I was like, oh, okay, she just said the name of an alliance that Hannah already knows about, so whatever. I feel like Azza is really. I really liked Azza in the beginning. I like the whole Joker's team, and now they just seem like a mess to me. Azza is like leading the charge right now, as people just seem like a mess.
I'm really not a big fan of Azza anymore. I don't know what is going on. I mean, not that I can really sit here and say that I was like a super fan or anything like that to begin with, because I can't really say that I've seen enough of her, but I definitely flipped to the other side.
I can't imagine in week 3 begging to go on the block.
It's certainly an interesting strategy.
Wait, so what about Derek F?
Well, if you felt like tonight's eviction might have been a little lackluster, you'd be correct.
It was horribly underwhelming.
So we were seeing all week, Brent was 100% positive. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to blindside Xavier, to the point where he was talking about right before Julie reads out the names, he's going to give Xavier a look of like, haha, checkmate, dude. And then she was going to say the name.
Yes.
And his stupid face was going to be so shocked, and it was going to be gold. We were about to see the best blindside that we have seen in seasons. But it was last night, this morning, I don't remember. Derek F and Brent are in a conversation, and Brent knows that he's fine, but he's still looking for a little bit of reassurance, to which Derek F tells him, listen, man, I'm going to be totally honest with you. I would vote with you if I thought that you had the numbers, but people aren't being honest with you. I just don't think it's going to happen. And he faltered for a minute, but he was like, no, I don't know, like wasn't really sure if he believed him or not. So we were like, okay, great. Maybe we can save this. And then later on, Christian happened to slip up and say something along the lines of like, the women think that we're blind to the fact that they're sending out 3 men in a row. And Brent said, uh-oh, which like easily could have been covered had Derek F not specifically told him, you don't have the numbers, people are lying to you. And I've never been so angry watching. I was like, Tyra Banks style, that girl on America's Next Top Model, screaming at him like, no, we wanted this. What are you doing? I was, my God, I'm so mad about it. Especially since Derek seems to be another self-proclaimed super fan of the show. You know how much we want this.
Yes, you know how excited we were for this. It was literally getting me through my work day, just knowing that this was coming at the end of my day. And
I have just been in a perpetual state of anger all day, thinking about how much he messed this up for us.
Yeah, I'm like really, really upset. And on top of that, he still has not yet cast his vote to evict correctly.
What is happening?
And you can't even know how to vote.
I don't understand. I sadly to evote.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I need to know, like, is he kicking himself? Like, does he realize how much of a mess he is? I need for him to know. And I wish that we could get a message to him. Like,
I almost want him to go pre-jury purely so that people can grill him on his exit press and be like, what's happening here? Please tell me.
Honestly, what's happened since the moment you walked in? Because it's honestly, the way that you vote really, really underscores the way you played. like it's really, everything has been a hot mess, like since the very, very beginning. Like I can't imagine who's rooting for him at this point other than friends and family. Like
Frenchie?
That's about it.
Derek F should go home just for ruining the blind side. Honestly, just send him home right now.
Yes.
No one would be upset.
Yeah,
that's so
Julie didn't even know what to say to him because like it was just like so underwhelming. Like the whole thing was such a letdown.
I mean, he was talking about an alternate reality, Brent, in that exit interview.
It's baffling to me how bad his read on this game was.
Yeah. I mean, to go from literally at the start of the week, like saying that it was basically impossible for him to be a pawn because he's so much of a threat. And then immediately after being evicted, he's like, I don't know why people thought I was a threat. I didn't win anything. It's like, you were walking around the entire time.
I don't know why people thought I was
you were a threat.
I threw up.
We were all talking about it during the episode. Of, he's like, yeah, everybody kept saying I'm this huge threat. And like, Kyland already turned on me. And we're like, what? You said that. No one's turned on you. Yeah. What are you talking about?
That really was something. It's funny. I have not been disappointed with a single eviction yet this year. I feel like usually there's at least one person that I really don't want to see go. And 3 weeks in a row, the person that we wanted out has been sent home. It's thank God. See you later, Brent.
What's so crazy to me about this eviction too is like, I was saying this to someone the other day. In any other season, Brent would have thrived. Like, he is the kind of player that we're so used to seeing go so far in this game that we as a fan base are like, oh, I just want him out of here. But, like, the alpha male and the big alliance, like, in a season like, last season in All-Stars with the committee or season 21 with, like, Jackson and Jack and that whole crew. And then even level 6 in season 20, like, Brent is the kind of person that we always see go so far in this game. So in any other season, it would have been his show to maybe not win, but get a lot farther in than third boot. It's just, it's crazy how, like, because he ended up on such a different season with a cast that is constantly gaming and plotting, it was his downfall when normally it wouldn't be.
Yeah, because these people who are playing this season, like, they're just playing differently. They're playing very, very smart. It's a completely different game this year, and it's far more fun to watch. I have to be honest. I think it's far more fun.
I would go so far as to say this is maybe my favorite season I've seen, and we're only in week 4.
I know. I'm scared to say that. I'm scared to be like, it's too early, but like at the same time, the fact that we're even having a conversation around that this early says something.
I mean, we've been seeing these people play like 4 straight weeks worth of Big Brother in a couple of days. Like, it's crazy how much they're gaming.
Yeah.
Right. There's just so much strategy this season, like, and I think, like, we've said it, I feel like I'm repeating myself all the time, but I feel like so much of it has to do with the team twist. You know what I mean? Like, these people were forced into, you can see the alliances that, like, they all want to be a part of. But it's like that team twist holds them back from really being able to, like, just let loose and work with whoever they want to. Like, at the end of the day, we always see them after a big moment or before a big moment. All the teams are always together. We see the little graphic with aces, kings, queens, jokers, and these are like team meetings. And they're, so you are always forced to be in a position where you have to, work with these people in some way. It was really fun this week, though, getting to see the aces, work with Brent, but also conspire against him. Like, that was really fun to me.
I still say I'm rooting for a Claire HOH, though. That's really what I want.
I really want to see more from her.
Yeah, because there's just something about her that I feel like we haven't seen enough of her, and I really just want her to win. Not because I can expect what she'll do. I just want more of a spotlight on her, so I can just know more of what she's thinking. I'm just very intrigued by her because she's always just like off on the side, like listening to things. The little clips that we do see of her just seems like she's very involved in certain conversations. Like, she's always present. I just want to see more. I want to see more from Claire.
Yeah, it's so strange because in my mind, seeing Claire, seeing Tiffany, some of these women that are in the house, like, they're playing great games. You know what I mean? But it feels, but it's such a weird season because every HOH so far has been a man, and every person that's gone home has been a man. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a bizarre season the way it's turned out. But I mean, not that it's bad in any way. I think it's been incredibly entertaining. It's just such like an interesting season. There are so many ways that I feel like the women are running the house, but they haven't much. Right? Like, is Tiffany the only? I might be forgetting somebody, but which of the women have won competition? I know Tiffany has won a wild card comp, but other than that, can we think of any?
Beth won a wild card.
Sarah Beth also won a wild card. Okay, but and other than that, we've seen a lot of Christian. We've seen a lot of Derek X. We've seen a Frenchie HOH, a Kyland HOH. You know what I mean? It just feels like so many of these competitions are going to the men. Yet it's all the men that are leaving.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting.
Yeah,
I love it.
I think it's so interesting. You know what I enjoyed on the fun little moment? Because Xavier has been trying to hide the fact that he's a lawyer from everybody. Then Derek F is just, I think he's a lawyer. He's a lawyer.
Like, of all people, too. Of course,
of course it had to be him. Like, this made it so much worse.
Right. So I didn't realize this until tonight either. Brent came up with the Mafia, the name The Mafia.
Mm-hmm.
Of course he did. It's so lame.
Brent was only in 2 alliances, and both of them were fake. The Mafia and the Radicals.
Oh, the Radicals.
2 alliances
Yeah.
he was
the Radicals,
going hard with, and they were both just...
I only even knew anything about the Radicals just because of that graphic I like to pull up. But otherwise,
because it was
irrelevant. Yeah, I never heard any chatter of this. Like, I never heard anything else of it. I didn't even think it was real. As far as I was concerned, it was a misprint.
Messy. His reads were just so off, and it's crazy to me.
Now I have to ask now, what do we think about Christian and now the Kings winning yet again? So obviously all the Kings are safe. Xavier is good. Who else on the Kings? Alyssa. Who's the fourth? Sarah Beth.
Well,
so
the Kings are safe for now. They're safe for now. But if depending on the wild card comp, I'm just saying it's possible. Because what did Julie say? She did say that it would affect the person who wins the wild card comp. Could be getting safety, but it would also affect. Another way it would impact the game. Yeah, so who knows? Who knows what'll happen? I think we already know. I think who 2 of the wild card comp players will be. I believe because they said that in the beginning, once you play in a wild card comp, you can't play again until everyone on your team has. Mm-hmm. So far on the Aces, Hannah, Brent, and Derek X have all played in a wild card comp. So for the Aces, it's going to be Whitney. Mm-hmm. The Kings won't be playing this week because they won HOH. The Queens, Kylan and Tiffany both played. Travis is gone. He went home. So Claire's got to play for them. The only team that we don't know yet is the Jokers. Frenchie and Brittany both played, but they didn't have anybody in the first week because they were HOH. So it could be Azza or Derek F still that are eligible to play for the Jokers.
Mm-hmm. Deep in thought.
Now I'm trying to decide who I would rather play. Like from that team, and I really am having a hard time.
I don't want Derek F winning safety. He's on my list.
Yeah, I don't necessarily. I don't know that I want him to win safety, but I was trying to debate whether or not is it interesting for him to have safety? Would it be interesting to keep him in the house, even though I don't like him? And would it be more interesting to keep Asa? Like that's really what I don't. But I don't honestly. I really don't like Derek F. I don't think there's anything interesting about him staying, except for the fact that it is uninteresting for him to leave. Right? Like that is such an obvious choice. So that's not very fun. So I think I'd rather somebody else for right now. I'd rather it when, I don't know, when he really thinks he's good. I'd rather hear some more about who his next final 2 is. And what I'd like to see from Derek F is I'd like to see him get blindsided. I'd like to see him get backdoored and sent on his ass. I'd like to see how that goes. So I'd hold out. He can stay in the house if you can tell me that that's coming. All right? That's what I'm hoping for. Yeah.
Really interesting. I wouldn't mind seeing Derek F go home.
Yeah, he sucks.
But I think he's good though. I think he's all right. I mean,
good in terms of safe.
I think he's set up well. Yeah.
Of the house.
Right. I think he's set up fine. At least for this week. But
no one's really been talking about him other than Christian debating using him as a pawn.
Okay. I could make things very interesting.
It could make things interesting because you can almost guarantee that if he went up as a pawn, he'd probably stay up there, which, would excite me greatly. And then, he is always the dissenting voice. So, like, I don't know. Maybe somebody would see some value in sending him packing.
Yeah.
I mean, it is still looking. Oh, that's what I was getting at earlier. It still does look like Hannah and Whitney are the two most likely options because what I was saying before, once Xavier kind of threw out Hannah as a possible pawn, we saw it from Sarah Beth in this edit. She was going hard of, well, wait a second. If we're putting Hannah up, Hannah actually is pretty threatening. Maybe we just shift the target to Hannah. And from that conversation, it sparked this whole thing. I believe it was yesterday where all of a sudden everybody was like, no, you're right. We got to get Hannah out of here. So there is a potential that Whitney is no longer the target and Hannah is. And that's not great for Xavier. He was, trying to think about ways that he can maybe shift this and get the target back on Whitney. But all he's really landing on without showing his cards for the cookout is that she just kind of has to gun for Veto at this point. But everything changes so quickly. It's like, who's to say?
Right. I know. I don't have strong feelings for or against Whitney at this point. I don't really care if she goes or stays. I guess I just really don't care if she goes. I don't find that very interesting. But I don't know who I would rather. I don't know who I'd rather. I do know who I'd rather. Not necessarily people in general, but I would really love to see 2 members of the cookout go up. That's what I'd like to see. I don't care which 2. I just want to see how it shakes out. I just think that could be interesting because we're already seeing cracks in the cookout. Like Tiffany and Asa, like, what is that? Again, Derek F. always being that dissenting voice. Even if we haven't seen anything edit-wise, there's got to be something. There's got to be something. I'm not so sure that he set up so nice after that Brittany thing. And I still say that Brittany needs to go before we get to jury.
100%.
Because she's going to mess somebody up. She's going to mess somebody up real good. She's got to go. She has to go.
And, as I look at this, I'm looking at the teams right now. As I look closer at it, Kyle, I do kind of, I agree with what you were just saying about, because the options are so limited. So like between the Royal Flush, and all that, and all the different alliances that people have, I could see an Asa and a Derek F landing up on the block somehow. I could see the 4 names that I'm looking at are the 3 remaining Jokers: Asa, Brittany, Derek F, and then Whitney. Those are like the 4, and then obviously Hannah, Gina has been talking about, but everybody else seems like they're kind of like untouchable to Christian a little bit, right? I mean, like, if we look at these alliances.
Yeah, I think that Christian's got some problems. I don't think he has a lot of options here. And I know this graphic is outdated, but I mean, it does at least show us the Royal Flush, even though it says family. I think the cookout's got some problems. There could be rain in the forecast. I don't know. It's problems.
Interesting.
And I'd love to see it. So in that case, then, who do we want to play for the wild card? I think then, in that case, on the Jokers, I'd like to see Derek F. play because I don't think he would win.
Okay,
so I'd like to see the cookout under fire. Under rain.
It's interesting to me, not that it really matters necessarily for this week, but just for future HOH reigns. There are a lot of people saying that they need to, target the Kings. They need to split up Christian and Alyssa. But based on what I'm hearing, more people are looking to gun for Alyssa than for Christian, which does not make sense to me. Because at this point, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2, he has won every competition he's played in. Even technically that first HOH that Frenchie won, Christian completed that House of Cards twice in the time that it took Frenchie to do it. The only reason he lost is because his team dropped it. So technically Christian still won that competition too. So the fact that people aren't seeing him as this comp beast that he clearly is, especially we saw how quickly he won Bollerina against everybody that he was playing against.
Oh my god!
Just crush it, effortless. He just went up there with his little tutu and shut it down. That's
we did see. I couldn't remember if it was I couldn't remember if it was in his intro package or just in like his little bios preseason, but he has mentioned that like just for funsies, he plays a lot of like carnival games in his backyard, which makes him it makes these competitions a breeze for him. He's just like naturally good at them.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to me that more people aren't talking about how much he's constantly winning.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. He's the only one in the house to have won at least one of every competition, right? The wild card, the veto, the HOH. That strategy he had in Bull Arena was great. The spinning, he was moving in that competition.
Yeah,
and
sure
yeah, I'm really impressed with him, honestly.
What do we think Christian can do? What were the options now?
I mean, well, based on like these alliances, based on the chatter that Gina's hearing, it seems like, you know, we're seeing Hannah being mentioned, Whitney, right? Was Whitney one you had mentioned? And I mean, I could personally see pretty much anybody on the Jokers being an option, and other than that, I mean, I feel like Christian has some kind of agreement or some kind of you know team with all these people.
Yeah.
I will say, in terms of the Jokers, at this point, especially what we're getting at with like getting closer to jury, the next person who puts Brittany up has to be the last person that puts Brittany up. Because the more that people are turning on her and she's perceiving people as coming for her, the more people are going to be on her list, you know? Like we've already seen, I'll never trust Kyland again. Xavier spoke to me in a way that I've never been spoken to before. So the next person who puts her up has to get her out.
She's got to go. And she's a problem. And I think that it would really be in everyone's best interest. People need to get on the same page about that, about her being this bitter Betty.
I'm floored that I haven't heard anybody in the house talk about jury at all.
Right, because that it's a real issue.
Now is the time where you really have to start considering your jury management. We've seen so many people lose the game for that reason. Like Casey is an incredible competitor, but Tyler lost for poor jury management. Paul lost twice from poor jury management. Like it happens all the time.
Right. And Brittany, especially if she's the first out, she's got a week sitting there stewing by herself. And then she's just I mean, every single person to walk through that door, she's gonna just be slandering your name.
And we've seen all it takes is one. Bailey, I believe last season on the feeds was talking about how the reason why Tyler lost in season 20 is because Bailey poisoned the mind of every single person who entered that jury house, because she was the first one in there, and everyone that came in, she would just feed them little bits and pieces of like why Tyler doesn't deserve it, and he lost to a bitter jury.
Yeah. All right, so we're looking to the week ahead. Christian is the HOH. Congratulations, Bay, on a job well done. This has been Jury Duty, a Big Brother podcast, and we'll catch you next week. Thank you.